Good day, everyone, and welcome to our presentation. But first of all, let me thank you for those who contribute to achieve this presentation. Let me call on to Mr. Bourbon, Mr. Bote, Mr. Cabalan, Mr. Buhay, and Mr. Caballero. And just a reminder that there will be a worksheet posted in a Google Classroom. If you have questions, clarifications, violent reactions, you can ask after the report. As you can see on the screen, our topic today is about indigenous science and technology in the Philippines. Today's topic is of particular interest to those of you who really love cultural, in a way, of science works. By the end of this presentation, you will be familiar with how the science and technology related to indigenous tribes. How was it connected to cultural value? So let's move on to our objective of the presentation. This lesson focuses on the indigenous science and technology in the Philippines. Filipinos, especially during the early times, try to invent tools that will help them in everyday life. They also develop alternative ideas in explaining various phenomena and explaining the world around them. This system of knowledge is called indigenous knowledge, which is the foundation of indigenous science. What is indigenous knowledge? It refers to the understanding, skills, and philosophies developed by societies with long histories of interaction with their natural surroundings for rural and indigenous people.
Indigenous knowledge system embedded in the cultural traditions of regional, indigenous or local communities, orally passed event in stories, poems, and songs. Indigenous knowledge that are taught and practiced by indigenous people. Predicting weather condition and seasons using knowledge and observing animals' behavior and celestial bodies. Using herbal medicines, preserving foods, classifying plants and animals into families and groups. Preserving and selecting good seeds for planting using indigenous technology in daily lives. Building local irrigation system, classifying different types of soil for planting, producing wines and juice from tropical fruits, keeping the custom of growing plants and vegetables.
What is indigenous science according to Gibbon 2001, MKAPA 2004, CBC 2004? Indigenous science is part of the indigenous knowledge system practiced by different groups of people in early civilizations, Paliwan 2005. It includes complex arrays of knowledge, expertise, practices, and representations that guide human societies in their innumerable interaction, their natural milieu, agriculture, medicine, naming and explaining natural phenomena, and strategies for coping with changing environment. Here in Paliwan 2006, our simple framework about indigenous science. Indigenous science, science process skills, community culture and values, and last, traditional knowledge.
Uses science process skills such as observing, comparing, classifying, measuring, problem solving, inferring, communicating, and predicting. Indigenous science is guided by culture and community values, composed of traditional knowledge, practiced and valued by people and communities such as ethnobiology, ethnomedicine, indigenous farming methods, and folk art. Osawa, 1995. He claimed that it is collectively lived in and experienced by the people of a given culture. Gadget 2004. Indigenous science includes everything from metaphysics to philosophy and various practical technologies practiced by indigenous peoples both past and present. Yacarino 2003 collaborated this idea by explaining that science is a part of culture and how science is done largely depends on the cultural practices of the people. Johnston 2000. Indigenous beliefs also develop desirable values, namely 1. Motivating attitudes. Practice of motivating people by influencing their thoughts and behaviors. Number 2. Cooperating attitudes. It influences a person's desire and willingness to cooperate and produces an emotional response. Number 3. Practical attitudes. Making sensible decisions and choices. Number 4. Reflective attitudes. A willingness to think about things that you don't understand. So, Kuhn 1962, developmental stages of most sciences are characterized by continual competition between a number of distinct views of nature, each partially derived from, and all roughly compatible with the dictates of scientific observation and method. United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, recognized indigenous science as a historical and valuable contribution to science and technology.
Indigenous science is important in the development of science and technology in the Philippines. Like the ancient civilization, indigenous science gave birth to the development of science and technology as a field and as a discipline. Indigenous science helped the people in understanding the natural development and in coping with everyday life.
Indigenous knowledge. Indigenous science and technology. Indigenous knowledge. Indigenous knowledge is the unique knowledge confined to a particular culture or society. It is also known as local knowledge, folk knowledge, people's knowledge, traditional wisdom, science, embedded in a daily life experience of young children in the world. Practice by members of the community. Parents and other families serve as their first teachers, and their methods of teaching are very effective in transmitting cultural knowledge in the mind of the children. 4. Lessons they learn are intimately interwoven with their culture and the environment. 5. Values and life stories of people and daily struggles. 6. Use both nature and their reflection of their experiences in daily life are even in their stories, poems, and songs. Indigenous knowledge. Use. A. Predicting weather conditions and seasons. Using knowledge and observing animals' behavior and celestial bodies. B. Using herbal medicine. C. Preserving foods. D. Classifying plants and animals into families and groups based on cultural properties. E. Preserving and selecting good seeds for planting. F. Producing wines and juices from tropical fruits. G. Keeping the custom of growing plants and vegetables in the yard.
Indigenous science. Indigenous science is a part of indigenous knowledge system practiced by different groups of people and early civilizations. It includes complex arrays of knowledge, expertise, practices, and representations that guide human societies in their innumerable interactions with their natural milieu. For example, medicine, naming and explaining natural phenomena, agriculture, and lastly, strategies for coping with changing environments. To know more about indigenous science, here are definitions that captures the true essence of what indigenous science is. First, it is collectively lived in and experienced by the people of a given culture. Next, indigenous science is composed of traditional knowledge that uses science process skills and guided by community, values, and culture. Also, indigenous science provides the basics of astronomy, pharmacology, food technology, or metallurgy, which were derived from traditional knowledge and practices. Indigenous beliefs also develop desirable values that are relevant for consistent to scientific attitudes, namely, number 1, motivating attitudes, number 2, cooperating attitudes, number 3, practical attitudes, and number 4, reflective attitudes. These cultural beliefs therefore can be good foundation for developing positive values toward learning and doing science and in bringing science in a personal level. If you want more knowledge about indigenous science, here are more contexts of what it is. Science process skills, community, culture, and values. Traditional knowledge. Indigenous science uses science process skills such as observing, comparing, classifying, measuring, problem solving, inferring, communicating, and predicting. Indigenous science is guided by culture and community values such as the following. First, the land is the source of life. It is a precious gift from the Creator. Next, all living and non-living things are interconnected and interdependent with each other. 3. Human beings are stewards of the land and other natural resources. They have a responsibility to preserve it. And 4. Nature is a friend to human beings. It needs respect and proper care. And lastly, the earth is revered as Mother Earth. It is the origin of their identity as a people. Continuing, indigenous science is composed of traditional knowledge, practices, and valued by people and communities such as: first, ethnobiology. This is the scientific study of the way living things are treated or used by different human cultures. It studies the dynamic relationship between people, biota, and environments from the past to the present. Second, the ethnomedicine. The study of comparison of the traditional medicine based on bioactive compounds in plants and animals and practiced by various ethnic groups, especially those with little access to Western medicines. Third, the indigenous farming methods, which are methods to sustain productivity of land. Next is folk astronomy, creating stories about astronomical phenomena.
Importance of indigenous science. Number 1. Indigenous science gave birth to the development of science and technology as a field and as a discipline. Number 2. Indigenous science helped the people in understanding the natural environment and in coping with everyday life. Examples of indigenous knowledge. Number 1. Observation of the environment to predict and prevent landslides. Landslides are most likely to occur if sacred trees, ay lulik, are cut, and sacred stones, fatuk lulik, are destroyed. The physical structure of soil is fragile when there are no stones and tree roots to secure the ground. Number 2. Aneda tree, the herbal medicine used as instrument for pharmacological development. Indigenous people in North America helped newcomers to cure scurvy using conifer needle tonics, another tree that are rich in vitamin C. Number 3. Sambong leaves. Sambong is a traditional medicine as a treatment for fever, cough, headache, boils, and abdominal pain. It also treats urinary tract infections and reduces high blood pressure. Number 4. Anino. This covers everything from cancer healing plants to natural ways to help a common cold. The leaves of this particular plant can be used to take away the pain of headaches, while the fruit has cancer healing properties. Number 5. Acupuncture. Acupuncture is a form of treatment that involves inserting very thin needles through a person's skin at specific points on the body to various depths. It can help to relieve pain, and it's used for a wide range of other complaints. Originated in China, it was first mentioned and recorded in documents dating a few hundred years before the Common Era. Acupuncture is a technique in which practitioners stimulate specific points on the body, usually by inserting thin needles through the skin. Number 6. Farming system of Cordilleras, Ifugaos, Payo, Muyung, and Uma, the Ifugaos of Cordillera. Indigenous knowledge system technologies and practices, farming system, evolutionary changes and problems. Number 7. Zai It system. Zai holes or tumbukiza, roof, gardens, circle gardens, vertical gardens. Zai is a term that farmers in northern Burkina Faso used to refer to small planting pits. The traditional land rehabilitation to rehabilitate degraded drylands and to restore soil fertility to the benefit of farmers living in dry lands. So the process. Step 1. The first step is digging a pit of measurement 60 cm length by 60 cm width by 30 cm or 90 cm by 90 cm by 30 in the farm. Step 2. After digging the pit, it's halfway filled with organic matter of dry leaves, maize straws, etc., which is to assist in conserving moisture contents and increase manure contents as the organic matter decomposes with time. Step 3. The Zai pits are then filled with a mixture of manure and topsoil after the organic matter. Step 4. The Zai pits are then irrigated in case the farming is being done during the dry season and the intended crops planted. What does it do? It harvests rainwater, it concentrates fertility, it accelerates decomposition, it results effectiveness, produces high grain yields, particularly on highly degraded sandy soils, increase crop yield by 40% through to 600% compared with standard row cropping. This invention should work well in many other parts of Africa, as well as the Middle East, Central and South America, India, and Southeast Asia, perhaps greatly improving food production and food security for the poor worldwide.
Volcanic eruption. Animal behavior changes: rats, snakes, crabs, and goat. Pamabatok, the tattooing technique of a Butbut tribe in the Philippines. Etag, natives' traditional way of preserving pork. Coconut oil lessens the pain of body due to its smoothing oil that penetrates the skin. Bamboo drip irrigation system is a 200 years old system of trapping steam and spring water by using bamboo pipe and transporting water from higher to lower regions through gravity. Bark of a willow tree, a symbolic medical plant. It is chemically known as acetylsalicylic acid or salicyate, has been used for centuries as a pain reliever. The main pharmacological active ingredients of willow is the salicin structure. Salicin is compressed of the glucose. It circulates in human circulation as blood glucose and acts as an essential energy source for many organisms through aerobic and anaerobic respiration of fermentation and salicyl alcohol. Local anesthetic and anti-inflammatory. Aspirin, pain reliever, is also known as salicylate and non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. NSAID, essential in the pharmacological development. It is used to reduce fever and relieve mild to moderate pain for conditions such as muscle aches, toothache, common cold, and headaches. May also be used to reduce pain and swelling in conditions such as arthritis. Rice fish co-culture system, farming technique for over 1,200 years in South China. Globally important agricultural heritage system by the UN Food and Agriculture Organization. Economic benefits. Net proceeds beneficial to farmers, boost their tourist public health benefits. Environmental benefits. Mutualism is defined as the interaction between individuals of different species that results in positive, beneficial effects on per capita production and or survival of the interacting populations. Food fermentation and preservation. Since ancient times, in every civilization, there will be food preservation or fermentation. It is to prolong food and stock it. Ancient Egypt, one of the avid practitioners of food fermentation and one of the oldest. Beer and mead is fermented in ancient Egypt. In Japan, miso and soy sauce is fermented, which one of the oldest condiments. Food fermentation occurs with the help of bacteria and yeast since in the ancient people does not have sanitizers or alcohol, bacteria is easily accumulated. Due to food fermentation, there are products that have been discovered and up to market till now. One of these is the most used preservation in canned foods, canned vegetables, to add flavor to the soup and meat, and that is monosodium glutamate or MSG. Kikunae Ikeda, a chemistry professor at Imperial University of Tokyo and founder of Ajinomoto, discovered the flavor-enhanced property of MSG in 1908. Another example of it is yogurt, sardines, spam, and many canned foods. Water harvesting, redirection, and productive use of rainfall. It involves collecting water from rooftops, swollen stream and rivers, or from constructed catchments. Water harvesting ensures that the farmers have enough amount of water stored in a case of limited rainfall or shortness supply of water. Originated from different civilizations, India, Mesopotamia, China, and modern days Israel in 200 BC. The first design of water harvesting is made of large rock, formed into a basin using clay and other rocks to seal it from leaking. Then it is used for drinking, washing, agriculture, and etc. Thank you for listening, guys. We are again the group 3, and I hope you learned something. For any questions, please raise your hands. Thank you.